Okay, good morning again. We are in Shaar Daled, Perek Lamed Beis, in the Hagah. And we need to finish Lamed Beis and Mir Hashem Lamed Gimel. We'll move a little bit quicker. And the Mir Hashem on Matzoi Shabbos Chanukah, that's Rosh Chodesh Teves, we'll be making a siyum. Hope everybody will be able to come. A siyum on the Nefesh Hachaim. It'll be a gala event. Sponsored by one of our participants, and we'll do a siyum there and even a haskalah on our next sefer, which is Tzidkas HaTzadik of Rav Tzadok. And just to suggest everybody starts now to try to get a sefer. Make sure you have a sefer Tzidkas HaTzadik of Rav Tzadok, or if you want, you can maybe I can buy like a bunch of them and be mechalek them to you, whatever is easier for you.
Maybe is there a particular edition that recommends us to get?
Yeah, I think actually like the simplest edition is the best, which is I think it's published by Har Bracha. It's the brown one, and or if you want to get fancy, you can get like a fancy one. But I think it's easier with I'll be the fancy part.
I think if they're over, maybe Dan or somebody can accumulate whoever wants to buy them and buy them in bulk.
Right, and we can buy them in bulk. So, Dan, you want to accumulate those names?
I just volunteered you. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so then maybe I don't know how you want to do it, Dan. How do you want to do that?
If anybody wants to PM me on on WhatsApp and let me know that you want to buy one, when I have enough names, I'll put together. I'll figure out a way to get this farm. And
we're quickly. It's a little bit cheaper now because of the Yud-Tes Kislev sale, and they have them.
Great.
So if you want them, just let Dan know. Okay. Okay. So we are in the Hagah, and what we're talking about is, of course, the what happens when we learn Torah, and we keep on reviewing the same Yesod that Torah Yisrael v'Oraisa Chadhu, v'Kutshabrichu Chadhu. So it means to say that Hashem has, whatever this means, emanating from him. The way he made the Bria is with the Or Ein Sof, and that's just, let's understand it as a light. And that light comes into the world and creates the Shechina and creates the Bria. And the way that light comes through the world is through Torah, Oraisa, Or. So that's that Oraisa stands for the Or Ein Sof Brichu, this unlimited light, this infinite light that comes from Hashem. So when we learn Torah, what we're actually doing is we're filling ourselves up with the Or Hashem, and then we become a light. We become part of the Bria itself. And of course, this is our tachlis in this world, to bring light into this world one way or the other, but Limud Torah is the thing, as opposed to mitzvos or tanesim or sigufim or any other tefillah, even any type of other avodas Hashem is all important, but the way you get the or in is dafka through Limud Torah. So that's what we've learned. Then the Hagah says here, Yesh Loimar al derech drash. Let's darshan this a little bit. Hakasuv, the pasuk says, Luchos ma'aseh Elokim hema, v'hamichtav michtav Elokim hu, charus al haluchos. B'darshu, and this you'll find in the 6th parak of Pirkei Avos, al tikre charus ela chayrus. And the Gemara, the Mishnah ends there, She'ein lecha ben chayrin ela misha oisik b'Torah. So let's, before we get into what he says, let's not lose the opportunity to understand the real shot in this. There were the Luchos Rishonais and there were the Luchos Shniyos, as everybody knows. One was before the Chet HaEgel and one was after the Chet HaEgel. And there's a difference between the two sets of luchos. You know, everybody heard about the miracles that were in the luchos, that the letters were showing Mishnei Avrehem. They were weightless. Moshe Rabbeinu was able to carry them, even though they probably weighed a couple of tons. There was all kinds of miracles that took place. The the samach and the mem shebeluchos benes hayu oimdim, that even though it was a circle, it doesn't make sense that it should just be there. The dot, the middle should just be there, but the dot just stood there miraculously. All those miracles that we've heard about the Luchos Habris were all about the Luchos Rishonos. They're not about the Luchos Shnios. They're all about the first Luchos, which we never even saw, of Moshe Rabbeinu. We did the Chet Egel, and then we have the Luchos Shnios. The Luchos Shnios did not have all those nisim that took place. They might have had some nisim, but not those nisim. The nisim that we always talk about, the miracles, are the miracles of the Luchos Rishonos. And by the way, those Luchos Rishonos, even though we didn't see them, but we did pick up the Shivrei Luchos that Moshe Rabbeinu broke, and we put them in the Aron Kodesh together with the Luchos Shnios, and the Luchos Rishonos for Luchos Shnios. I'm sorry, the Luchos Shnios, the Shivrei Luchos, Munachin Bar and Echad, they're all in the Aron Kodesh, and that's for just the miracle continued, and that's why the Aron Kodesh was weightless. Aron was noiseus noisa. Why? Because it had the koach of the Luchos Rishonos in them. Now, I just want to point out to you that by the Luchos Rishonos, the Torah says, Lashon the pasuk, as we just quoted, "Va'luchos ma'aseh Elokim heima, va'michtav Elokim hu charus ala luchos." That's where that pasuk is. So it means that the luchos, meaning the stones themselves, were ma'aseh Elokim, were created by Hashem. V'hamichtav, and then the writing on them, michtav Elokim hu, also writing from Hashem. This was a completely godly set of stones, and it came that way. Mashain came by the Luchos Shnios. The pasuk says a parak later in Shmoi Lamed Daled, "Vayomer Hashem el Moshe," is after Moshe pleaded with Hashem to give us another chance. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, Psol lecha. This pasuk you don't have in the Nefesh Hachaim, but I'm reading to you. You make two luchos that look like the first ones, meaning so does the second set of luchos, the stone themselves was actually carved out by Moshe Rabbeinu. They weren't given as a gift from Hashem. The kasavti, and then Hashem says, but I will write ala luchos on those stones es hadvarim asher hayu ala luchos harishonim asher shibarta. And I will write on those luchos that you make, I will write the same thing that I wrote in the Luchos Rishonim. It wasn't exactly the same thing, but it was the same thing. So the essential difference between the Luchos Rishonos and the Luchos Shnios is that the Luchos Rishonim, let's call it that, the Luchos Rishonim, the stone themselves was made by Hashem, and by the Luchos Shnios, the stone was not made by Hashem, but it was rather made by Moshe Rabbeinu. The Michtav seems to be the same thing. The first one was a Michtav Elokim hu, and the second one was a Michtav Elokim hu. Charus ala Luchos. The first ones it says Charus ala Luchos. The second one it doesn't say Charus ala Luchos. Right. So what's the significance of this? That the first luchos were made by Hashem. The second luchos, the tablets themselves, were made by Moshe Rabbeinu. Psal lucha shnei luchos havanim karishonim. They should look like the first ones. So does anybody know the significance of this?
I heard that the luchos were the goof and the michtav was the neshama. So there's some level of how much the neshama can permeate the goof, and at different levels before the luchos, before the chet and after this chet.
Good. You heard from me?
Probably.
Okay. So
I'm Rebbe for 13 years, so probably.
Okay. So good, Baruch Hashem. Good Talmud. So it means to say, let's look at it this way, like as Avram says, that the luchos, there's two parts to the Ten Commandments, if you will. There's the Luchos and the Ksav. We wouldn't know it's two things, but the Torah says it's two things. And the Rishonim already say, the Ramban, the others, and then the Archaim is Meirach on this, that the Luchos, the stone itself, represents the guf. And the writing on the Luchos represents the neshama. So what we received was a spiritual thing, guf and neshama, keneged the guf and the neshama. So fascinating that the original plan A, was that everything's been hashamayim. In other words, it's not like there's some kind of a stress or a tension or a battle between the guf and the neshama, or let's call it, for our deeper purposes, there was no stress between gashmius and ruchnius, between nature and something which was above nature. It's all one thing. The Luchos Rishonos was all one thing. Here, take it. Guf and neshama, everything is ruchnius. Something like a malach. Like a malach is not something which was born from a person. It's not something which came from earth. The comes from Hashem, both the body, so to speak, of the malach and the neshama of the malach. It's all one piece of ruchnius. Whereas the second Luchos was a more difficult Maisa, because what happened was that we're Afer Mina Hadama. But we do have a neshama, which is the writing on the Luchos, which is Kulei Ruchani. What's important for our purposes to understand right now, there's a lot to say about that, but what's important for our purpose right now is that what happens to the Lucha, what happens to the Luchos when they get permeated with the writing, or what happens to the guf when it gets permeated with neshama. Permeated is the key word, not that you have a neshama, but permeated with the neshama. So here the Torah gives us a hint in the Gemara, the Mishnah, in Pirkei Avos darshans this, that this writing in the first, maybe even in the second, was charus al halucha. So charus means graved in, engraved. Charus, chiseled out. But the Gemara darshans, al tikre charus ela cherus. Cherus means free. So what do Chazal want here? They want to say that there's something happens when the Michtav Elikim reaches the stones. And that is that it frees up the stones, cherus, it frees up the stones from all laws of nature. So let's understand that, like we ourselves as human beings, we're bound by the laws of nature. We can't levitate. We can't fly. There's gravity. There's, we get tired, that's gravity. Nafshi ka'ofar la'kol tiyah. Nafshi, my nefesh, is like, my humanness is like ofar. Ofar, you throw it up in the ground, up in the air, falls back down to the ground. So nafshi ka'ofar la'kol tiyah. But then we say, Psach libi b'sarasecha. What are we going to do about this? Nafshi ka'afar la'kol tiyah. We said it's a short esrei. Psach libi b'sarasecha. Open up my lave to Torah. And what happens is that when the letters, so to speak, of the Torah join the Luchos, or when the neshama joins the guf, so now the stones go free. When the stones go free one more time, although we have to work on this, it's not just a matana from Hashem like the first Luchos, but when we do the avoda that we're supposed to do, we become free. Free from what? Who's going free? Like we're not, what are we free from? We're free from the laws of nature. you had a limited amount of physical strength before, you'll have more. The ability to persevere, the ability to withstand, the ability to think in unthinkable situations. This is all Ben Chayrin.
That's Mavirim and Asar Dvarim Pashim.
Exactly what the Mishnah says. So the pshat is that Al Tikre Charus, once those oisios or the neshama is engraved within us, so then we become free from gravity, from the laws of nature. Doesn't mean we can fly, but we can fly. We can accomplish so much more. We're an or. Light is difficult to keep in a keli. So this is what the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos. Just learn Pashat Pshat in the Mishnah that what we have to understand is that the Maila of the Luchos Rishonos, with all the miracles of the Luchos Rishonos, is Chayzer Kodesh Baruch Hu. In fact, according to the way the Ramban brings the Chazal, it was the very same letters of the Luchos Rishonos, because when Moshe Rabbeinu broke the Luchos, the letters went up to the Shamayim and came right back into the Luchos Shniyos. So, and that's how Moshe Rabbeinu was able to bring them down the mountain. But so when we talk about Ben Chayrin, it doesn't mean, hoo-ha, let's paint the town red, we're free. This was not the great emancipation from slavery. It was a very, very deep spiritual emancipation where we are no longer bound by the regular laws of nature as everyone else. Why? Because we're holding the Or Ein Sof. And Or Ein Sof, the definition of Or Ein Sof is an infinite light. And the infinite light becomes part of who we are. Hence, Or Zaru Allah Tzadik. Okay, that's the pshat in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, which Nefesh Hachaim is referencing. Ishleimer al derech drash hakasuv va'luchos ma'aseh l'kimema va'michtav michtav l'kim hu charus v'darshu al tikra charus ela cherus. So that's what that Mishnah means. Yes, everybody with me? Very yesodistic pshat in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. We learn Torah, we become a Ben Chayrin. Now let's take this down to earth. What this all means, the Ramchal. By the way, I don't remember completely, but I don't think that the Nefesh Hachaim quotes the Ramchal too often. This is the Haggah. But he says, we see this in the Lutzata, which is the Ramchal. One of the Svarim the Lutzata wrote is B'Sefer Mesilas Yesharim. And in the Mesilas Yesharim, b'mamarim zichronim livracha hanal, the Mesilas Yesharim comments on the Gemara, which says, Barasi Yetzahara ubarasi loy Torah tavlin. We referenced this last week. Well-known Gemara. Hashem says, but let's look at it carefully and with Nefesh Hachaim eyes. Barasi Yetzahara, Hashem says this, I created a Yetzahara. Barasi loy Torah tavlin, and I created loy for it, Torah tavlin, the Torah as a tavlin. Now, a tavlin could be a spice, tavlinim, spices. A tavlin in the old days was an herbal mixture for medicine. Just mixing together the correct amount of dandelion root and hibiscus, tavlin. So we have the Yetzahara, and we have the antidote to the Yetzahara, which is Torah. Says the Mesilas Yesharim, Kamai be'inyan refuas haguf, just like if you go to the doctor, Shaar noisen la'achoyle tavlin, and the doctor will examine the patient and look at the ailment, and he will create a tavlin, like the good old days. You don't just write a script, or like the pharmacy and the doctor actually made something for you. Shaar, and apparently was quite effective. Shaar roife noisein lahachoyle tavlin mimuzag, which is a mixture mikama mine samonim va'asavim, from all different types of spices and grasses. V'hakol, and when he puts it together according to your ailment, I don't know how familiar we are with this like sort of concept, but nowadays in the more holistic world, you can find such a thing, right? Assuming people know the chachma. So he puts together all kinds of samonim, vasavim, herbs and spices, va'akol b'mita u'b'mishkal, and it's all done very, very carefully with a very precise measurement tool, u'b'diktuk atzum, and it has to be exactly right. Kvi hanitzrach, according to what the was needed, to the doctor who knew how to cure this. I presume, by the way, like somebody went to the Rambam, made an appointment with the Rambam, and told him about his ailment. This is what he would do. He would prescribe. He wasn't giving antibiotics per se, but he was giving the correct amount of herbs and spices, and mixing it very carefully and telling you when to take it, and creating a refuah. It's a great chachma of refuah. Today, the big farm does that for us, and they do it synthetically. But this is the way it was. Ha'im, so ask the Masil Sishar, Ha'im yala al dasa chayla. Would the chayla even consider shu yasa loy l'rapos chol yoy tavlin acher? You know what? I'm going to mix a little bit of something else in there. Memuzag, let's mix in misamonim v'asavim acherim k'fi shetala biyado. Like sometimes you go to one of these healers and they tell you, like, okay, you've got to drink this kind of tea for what you have, and then you tell them, well, that's not really what I have. I have it's an upper respiratory. Yeah, it's good for that too. It's good. The precision, the chachma, which was found in the Sefer HaRefuos, in which doctors knew for years. It was a little bit lost because of the pharmaceutical synthetic world, which is also good. That's where we're holding now. But normally, like if you're a normal person, you don't add and detract and say, hey, you know what, if this is good, I'm going to put a little bit more. Like we wouldn't do with medicine. The doctor tells you to take 1 pill every day. You don't take 3 pills every day. Dosage. Mi passive layavin. Who would be foolish enough not to understand it's the doctor who knows the ins and outs of this illness. It's the doctor who knows the ins and outs of the herbs and the spices. It's the doctor who knows how to match up the herbs with the patient. That's his training. So this is what Hashem is saying. Al tadamu b'nafshechem lihi malet mipituye hayetzer v'inyanov, says the Masil Sisharim. Don't even think to try to lihi malet mipituye hayetzer v'inyanov, that you know how to get out of the Yetzer Hara problem, says the Masil Sisharim. Don't even think that you know how to deal with it. B'tachbulais v'inyanim. You'll come up with plans and with programs. Asher tivcharu la'atzmachem kefitim yonechem. You'll come up with this kind of therapy and that kind of therapy for the Yetzer Hara according to what you imagine is good. Says Hashem, Haloi anoichi shebarasi ha'Yetzer Hara. I know the Yetzer Hara. I created it. V'yodei and Yanai. I understand what's going on there. V'anoichi, and I am the one, says Hashem, barasi neged zeh Torah tavlin v'samad dechaya. I'm telling you that the antidote for Yetzer Hara, the tavlin, is the Torah. L'rapos chelos chalas in Yanav. That'll give you the refuah. V'tedu, and you should know shelevad ha'esek b'talmud Torah. If you're not learning Torah, ain't shum tachbula acheres l'zeh. There's nothing else going to work. So a person will say, like, and of course this is like religions throughout history have done this. Okay, there's a problem with Yetzer Hara. I'm going to roll around in the snow. That's going to help my Yetzer Hara. I'm going to hurt myself in some way. I'm going to fast. I'm going to make tanesim. Whatever a person's going to do. These are all like tricks of the trade of how to calm down your Yetzer Hara. And this is very, very Yesodistic because there's so much written about all these little tricks that you can do. But he says, "V'tedu," but you should know, "Shelevad ha'esek b'talmud Torah ein shum tachbula acheres l'zeh." Chazal tell us that the way to deal with the Yetzer Hara is by learning Torah, because what's going to happen is let me go back to what I was explaining previously, because this is probably actually not the way we think. We probably do add medicines and subtract medicines, and we do have all kinds of programs and therapies for different types of Yetzer Hara. But let's understand what we're trying to achieve here. If you're trying to achieve that, look, I've got this terrible Yetzer Hara to eat. I really need to join Overeaters Anonymous. I see food, I eat it. Let's call that a Yetzer Hara for a moment, just to make a mushal. I'm not sure if that belongs to the Yetzer Hara or not. So what the Mesilas Yesharim is saying, you might succeed. This is what I think he's saying. You might succeed, you might not succeed. As they say, most diets don't last. You might succeed, you might not succeed. However, if you want to get la'etzem hadavar, you have to figure out, functionally speaking, what is it that's in me that's causing me to be on the seafood diet. So what's the, what is it within me? So the answer is that Hashem said, look, you could do this trick, you could do that trick. This is how Chazal understood Hashem saying. But at the end of the day, I created the Yetzer Hara, and I'm going to tell you how to deal with it. You're going to deal with it with the Or HaTorah. So you could ask a question, why would Hashem create a Yetzer Hara and then give you, like, here's the poison and here's the antidote? Why? Don't poison me, and don't, what am I, a Russian spy? Don't poison me and then don't fix me. So the answer to that is because the Yetzer Hara, which we call the Yetzer Hara, is extremely important in our avodas Hashem. The Yetzer Hara, go back to my mushal of eating. I don't know if it's a good mushal or not, but you don't want to kill your appetite, then you become anorexic. That's not the answer either. The answer is not to kill the Yetzer Hara, to utilize this force within me, the appetite within me, to do chet and use it l'toif. That's the idea. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, look, I'm giving you a tremendous tool called the Yetzer Hara, unbelievable instrument of success of avodas Hashem, but you need to fill it up with Or. If you don't fill it up with Or HaTorah, you think you're going to manage this? You're not going to manage it. There's no managing it. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. You just need to fill it up with Or HaTorah, and not diminish it, not kill it, not, that's not what you're supposed to do, but fill it up with Or HaTorah, and all of a sudden the let's say a person has a tremendous drive to conquer the world. So it's a Gashmias drive, to make billions of dollars. It's a Gashmias drive, but you can use that's a tremendous tool that Hashem gave you. I'm personally envious of people with these huge Yetzer Haras, because it's a fantastic tool that, when harnessed or when filled with the Or HaTorah, you can change the whole world and make it a place of shalom, make it a place of ruchnius. So let's call the Yetzer Hara, for our purposes here, let's not call it the evil inclination. Let's call it a source of energy, which is actually stronger than the energy of the Yetzer HaTov. The example of this, the strongest example of this we learned is David HaMelech. David HaMelech, went through life, which what Chazal say, it's not me talking, Chazal say with tremendous Yetzer Hara. Tremendous Yetzer Hara all the way through. We only lived 70 years, but like it was Nisayan after Nisayan, challenge after challenge. I mean, the story of David HaMelech is the story of challenges. And he fell into some of the challenges. He did tshuva for the Ma'aseh Basheva. He was a warrior. He did tshuva. He, at the end of his life, he said until him, Libi chalal b'kirbi. Under control. Libi chalal b'kirbi. It's not a madrega of tshuva. It's a matter of libi, which he means, Rashi says, is Yetzer Hara. Chalal b'kirbi, it's contained. It's not the enemy that was contained. It was the energy of David HaMelech was the energy to conquer Eretz Yisrael and to get to Yerushalayim and to build a Beis Hamikdash, which he almost did. That was the energy of David HaMelech, which was also that same energy which was taking him to Bathsheba and to other, challenges. The same thing is true with Shlomo HaMelech, and the same thing is true with somebody with all of us. Like it's exactly the weakness, which is the strength. So you can't ask the kasha, well, if Hashem's giving us a tavlin, what are you giving us the Yetzer Hara to begin with? We don't want to be a malach, which, by the way, it explains like the Min HaShamayim of the Luchos Rishonos and the Luchos Shniyos. Because if we would have actually received the Luchos Rishonos, so then our job in this world would have been different. Malachim, hovering around the world, doing good. But being that we did a chet of the Maisa Egel, we fell into a challenge of Gashmias and Zahav and the Egel. So when we picked ourselves up from that, we got the Luchos Shniyos, which are, in a certain way, holier than the Luchos Rishonos. Those are the ones that were in the Mishkan. Those are the ones that were in the Beis Hamikdash. So, in a sense, Hakol Min HaShamayim, the Zohar says that the Luchos Rishonos were Torah Shebiksav. And the Luchos Shniyos were Torah Shebal Peh. What's the difference between Torah Shebiksav and Torah Shebal Peh? Torah Shebiksav is coming from up to down. Here we got it, and Torah Shebal Peh is coming from down to up. We're sitting and we're creating something. Amar Rava, Amar Abaya, Amar Apapa. Struggling through the Ratzon Hashem, and we're better for it. We're better for it. We're better for making a siyum on Shas than making a siyum on Tanakh. Not because it's harder, but because it's the personal struggle. And when we do that, I've overcome. I'm really free from the Yetzer Hara pulling me in the other way. I get to the place of David HaMelech, which is using the Yetzer Hara for Toiv, Libi Chalal B'Kirbi. As the Pirkei Avos says, Ezuhu Gibar HaKoivesh Es Yitzur. So this is probably one of the most important Yesodus that I repeat over and over and over again, that the Yetzer Hara is not a bad guy. He's not the enemy. He's only the enemy if he's not contained. He could be the greatest ally.
What's halal in that case? It's like space halal, like it has a place within me. That's what it means.
Yeah, it's contained, like a space, like a halal. Yeah.
Just add what the Rishiva. I'm sorry, I don't mean to add, but the Rishiva always said that that a tavlin is always there to make something taste better and be geschmack. So he said the Yetzer Hara is a steak. And if you spice it properly, that steak is going to be geschmack.
Yeah. Thank you. And in fact, like you took the words out of my mouth, because we're the same, both Talmidim of Oisei Tzaddik. But he pointed this out often, that you don't put spices to taste. You put spices to bring out the taste. So what are you bringing out the taste of? The Yetzer Hara. Think about it deeply. What are you bringing out the spice, the taste of? What's the stake here? The stake is the Yetzer Hara. So Barasi Yetzer Hara, okay, it's pretty bland and it's almost negative. You spice it correctly, tavlin. Spice it up. So spice up your life with Torah. V'zeh shekasav, going further in the Nefesh Hachaim, Rav dem steht, Luchos Maisa Elikim Hema, that the Luchos means, again, talking about the original Luchos, Maisa Elikim Hema, they were created by Hashem. Haim, not the Haim, Luchos Halev HaChoimed. This is the yearning heart. In the Torah it says, Loisach Moed. But there's an end to that sentence, even though those are only two words hanging up in the show. You don't need his field, you don't need his cow, you don't need his wife, but you should be choimed, that's for sure. So, Haim Luchos Halev HaChoimed. This is a definition. Underline this word as a definition of Yetzer Hara. Lev HaChomed, the yearning heart. Hu Yisparach Shmai Asam. Hu Ayodei Inyan Yitzracha Hanatua Belibcha. The only way to deal with it. He brings the pasuk in Mishlei Gimel Gimel. Kosveim al luach libecha. Take the Torah and write it onto your Yetzer Hara. Luach libecha. Luach, like the Luchos, yeah? Luchos. The tablet. Va'michtav elikimhu. And now we're saying the writing is the writing of Hashem. Sheneged zeh. And what does that mean? What is that writing in our case? Yes, I gave you a leiv hachoimed, but I'm also giving you the ability to learn Torah deeply, l'chasvam, u'l'chakikam, to really carve it in, aluchos libcha, on the luchos, to luchos, li'molet al yada mi'inyanei yetzer, and this is how we are saved from that's not the way, one more time, we're killing the Yetzer Hara, but that's the way we're utilizing the koach and the strength within us to do the right thing, what the Yetzer Hara is for. B'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol miyadecha, Chazal say b'chol levavcha b'shnei yitzrecha. And there you have the whole thing. B'shnei yitzrecha. V'lozois teda, and this way you'll understand what it means. That you have no freedom from the Yetzer Hara with all of the tricks that you might do. So like I just want to now I don't think he's saying, just to be a little bit more wide-angled here, I don't think he's saying that those tachbulas are necessarily bad. But like you'll go to a Baal Musar and he'll tell you to make a Tainus Dibur for 3 days because you talk Lashon Hara. He'll tell you to don't walk on this street and don't carry your money around with you. That's what Musar is. That's what Musar is. But what we need to know about that is that that's what Musar is, and those are behavioristic changes that a person can make in their life, but they're not yet, by walking here and not walking there and going here and not going there, they're not yet getting the Yetzer Hara, which is, let's look at it maturely, not as like kids, the Lev HaChomed within us to do the right thing. We're just behavioristic things that we can do to make it that we're not going in the wrong way. This is an important thing, let's say, for children, like to guide them in the right way, develop good habits, everything. But and for adults also. But the pshat in the Yetzer Hara is to do good, and the pshat in Torah is to fill it up with the Or Ein Sof. Okay, Ephraim, you look like you want to say something. Mm-hmm.
I had a thought.
See,
the word karishonim. It sort of links up to a different shiur you gave. The second luchot are as if they were the first, karishonim. So it was given after the second Luchot arrived after the Chet Egel and after Moshe Rabbeinu supplicated HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and after HaKadosh Baruch Hu salach la'am Yisrael. So there's a connection here to Salicha, Mechila, Kapara as well. And how does that fit in to what the Nefesh Hachaim is trying to tell us today?
Yeah, very good. You said a lot there. So it's very interesting because in the tshuva process, you have slicha, mechila, and kapara, which I've spoken about many times. And the slicha is, okay, hey God, I did something wrong. Okay, don't worry about it, go further. The mechila is a deeper madrega. That kapara is when you take the chet itself. We learned this a couple of weeks ago, and zdoinois nasa keshuyos, like you actually take the chet and turn it into something which is bigger than a mitzvah itself. How could this be? So we talked about this, all kinds of magical ways that it could be, Shemayim. But the emes of the pshat is that this can like Reish Lakish, this can be used. We'll tell you that's what kapara means. The example I gave was in a relationship. So yeah, okay, I apologize. Okay, sorry, but I know you're going to do that again. Mechila, I'm really trying to change. Kapara means that we use the mashber that we fell into in this relationship, and let's take it and make it a step to jump, to jump higher in the relationship. And this can be. By the way, I've seen this with my eyes with families 100 times. How somehow or another the mashber in a relationship between them makes it for something like of a crazy, wild, beautiful relationship. Or sometimes not. Can't say it's always the case, but it can be the case. But it takes a lot of work. Not only could get Rishonim, but even better than the Rishonim, Okay. Let's go 1 minute further. Chazal say, I'm just going to just start on this. We're out of the Haggah and into the Nefesh Hachaim. And Chazal say in Soita Chafal of Amid Aleph, B'yisalechecha tanche oischa. That's the pasuk. Where's that pasuk? Mishlei. In Mishlei, Shlomo HaMelech says, B'yishalechecha tanche oischa. Okay, Ephraim, now that you have the floor, can you translate that pasuk for us?
It's 10 o'clock.
Oh.
No?
No, I stepped in my car and I lost you for a moment.
Yeah. B'yishalechecha tanche oischa. Go ahead, Yaakov, what does it mean?
Your actions, your endeavors, God will instruct.
Okay, let's go like this.
What you do.
When you walk, Shlomo HaMelech is saying in the name of Hashem, when you walk, travel, tanche oischa. This is, by the way, let's just leave it on this. This is a very interesting word, tanche. Tanche means I will guide you. Where do we see tanche means I will guide you? Usually nach means that I will stop you. You will rest. Asnachta, menucha. Where do we find tancha means I will guide you? What do you say, Philip?
Lanchot lahem baderech. Isn't there from when they left Mitzrayim?
Very good. Actually, I took down a shemais for a second. Parshas V'Shalach. Sorry, my apologies here.
There's also lech nechei.
Yeah.
don't know where it is.
Here. And then we went on a Mitzrayim. Vayisu misukos vayachnu ve'esams parshas v'shalach. V'ksei midbar v'Hashem hoylech lifneim yoimam ba'amud anon lan choisam haderach. V'layla ba'amud eish l'choyer lahem loleches yoimam v'layla. So God put a pillar of cloud in front of us, lan choisam, to lead us on the way. So you see that nacha means to lead.
You say lech nechei.
What does Nechei mean?
I don't know. I just remember the poster. I don't know where it is.
I'm gonna read you one sentence from Rav Shimshon Rafal Hirsch because I just opened it. He says there's a difference between nehag and nechei. Lan choisam haderach, whereas nehag indicates primarily the leading of creatures without will and sense. Nechei is used exclusively for the guidance of creatures endowed with will and reason, to the goal desired by them. Okay, I'm not giving a Hebrew lesson here, but it's such an interesting thing that Hirsch is machalik between, it should have said in the Torah, Lahan higam baderach, lead us. But leading us means that, like, you can lead somebody blindly. But lan choisam baderach means you're getting a different kind of a manhig, where you're saying to the manhig, in this case, a cloud of Hashem, you're saying to the manhig, this is where we want to go, take us there. It's like Waze, It's not just like, okay, I'm pulling you by the nose. Lan choisam baderach, to take them to the place of Har Sinai in Eretz Yisrael. That was the
same shorish as chinuch.
Chinuch, and the same shorish as, I'm not going to go into, but it's the same shorish of nechama. And you see the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva that vayinachem al ma she'asa, you regret what you did. It's the same source as menucha and Noach and nechei. And if you read the Hirsch further, it comes to a bunch of other parallel words, which I never understand what he's talking about. Okay.
Below Nacham Elikim.
Yeah, Nacham Elikim, same thing. Yeah.
Same thing.
Okay. Freilich and Chanukah, Mir Tashem and Chanukah, we'll learn, and we're going to almost finish. Maybe for homework, take a look at the end, till the end of the parak, and then the siyum we'll make at our grand Chanukah party on Motzei Shabbos. I urge everybody to come. Good fleishig and malava malka, geschmack, sushi and rolled roast. That's Rabbi. Have a good Shabbos.
Shabbos.
By Haber.
Go ahead, have a good Shabbos.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Haber.
Yeah.
My wife and I are leaving for the States on Monday for almost a month. I'll keep in touch, by WhatsApp, and try to attend the Shiurim as well. But I'll be in a different time zone.
We'll miss you.
No, hopefully we'll stay in touch. Have a good Shabbos and a Chanukah Sameach.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That's all.